Okay, so just continuing from the last video. So I was listening to a playlist. We're just going to go through Pandora's box and other things in this one. I'm going to start off with I was listening to a certain playlist. Like I said, I had saved a few songs on it that I really liked. And then somehow I switched the playlist to a different one. And by doing so, it actually put me, and also, if you're just changing things like that in your life, it's putting us on a slightly different timeline with different messages. So all of a sudden, I was really immersed in that one type of music I was listening to and the messages that were coming through with it, because obviously there are always messages in the lyrics that we're hiding. Like I already said in a different video, I don't remember from when, but basically whoever's coming up with all these songs, now this is things from 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, not the most recent ones are just complete, you can forget about that. There's not too many deep messages in those. They really just programming generations of people with that. But from the ones of, let's say, the 80s, the 90s, the 70s, whatever, even though that music is already infiltrated, or whatever instruments they're using is infiltrated, whoever wrote those songs had a lot of hidden messages in it, such as in that one No Doubt one. But also Madonna has a lot of songs. Whoever wrote her songs in the 80s and 90s, I'm not a Madonna fan, by the way, but whoever wrote her songs, I'm re-listening a lot of her songs lately over the past year already. There are so many messages stuck in that. And it's literally, for those who have eyes and ears to see and to hear, it's mind blowing the amount of matrix messages that are in all of that. They're giving you everything. They're talking about angels, which is not the Christian or religious. No, they're actually talking about these entities and the way they're depicting them too. They're talking about everything, like every single thing. I wouldn't even be surprised if there's songs out there how we even got stuck here, honestly. So those are the few ones that I noticed have messages in them. A whole bunch of, I can't remember the names of people, but a whole bunch of just singers from the 80s have, so like 70s and 80s, the really old school ones that still have a lot of instrumentals in it. Even Celine Dion messages, a few of those, just aside from the entire love stories and whatnot, they actually have really deep messages, matrix related messages in it. Coldplay had a good one too. Their song was Yellow. I know they're a little bit more recent, but he was basically talking about, for you, I'd bleed myself dry. And that's an insinuation to the entire crucifixion story, just as an example. And it doesn't mean that whoever was crucified on that day, which was Yeshua, not the Jesus, but the person who lived, it doesn't mean they bled themselves dry because of the people, but they bled themselves dry for whoever they were with at that point, the family, the community, like the people that were around them that were supporting them, but not the Christian or religious followers at all. And once again, I don't think he even died on the cross. Like I have videos on that too, which it's just going to take too long to always like repeat them in this one. So also, what demons and soulless people do, they just create unnecessary drama. That's what I started noticing over the past few weeks, especially, but just in general, it's been going on for a long time. They act immature, they act like a kid. There's a certain lack of like a lack of maturity with these soulless beings, no matter if they are just AI or if they're actual demons or whatever they are, and they just want to try to bring unnecessary drama into your life. It's not even that it really concerns you, but they try to drag you into something. Let's just say your friend is having an argument with their spouse or whatever, and they're airing it online on social media or whatever they're using. And a lot of people are getting involved with that, right? Because for some reason people love drama, at least the ones that are trauma bonding. So it's things like that where it's like, why, what did I even witness? Like, what was going on? And it's not just social media, but also if you just step outside, there's drama going on around, like people want to pick a fight, not even with you, but just random people around you. You see that a lot in the city as big as here, by the way. And at one point, you just have to step away from it and be like, why? What is this drama doing? Why is it trying to enter my life? Like, why are they trying to push that into my reality? What type of AI program is that really that's going on? So that's just what I personally started noticing. For sure with people around me, but also people I actually know, they create a lot of unnecessary drama. I'm not even sure if there's necessary drama, but for sure there is unnecessary drama. Like just it's just like such a waste of time. You know, like you become immersed in it and you wasted half a day with it, or you just kind of yeah, it just created this unnecessary drama, and they just act like children because they are children. They don't have the maturity of the older souls. Let's put it that way. I'm not coming from a new age standpoint, by the way, like old soul, new soul. Oh, you're so special, blah, blah. No, but I literally do think there are people who can consider themselves old souls because they have been here for way longer than the new AI, the newer NPC, like the background characters, like all those people. And so the ones that act especially immature, I do think is just newly created AI. So you have a lot of those symbols, like we went through the apple, the maggot symbols. Lana Del Rey also has a lot of messages in her songs. She's definitely a newer singer. But she even had a song that came out recently that was about the underground tunnels in LA, you know, the entire trafficking that's going on there. Yeah, just mind blowing how regular people don't see through that. I mean, all you have to do is listen to their song and you know what's going on. Pandora's box. There are ancient bloodlines. They're also related to our DNA, as I already said before. Oh yeah, before we go into the next topic. Some people are trying to make wherever they live more exotic. Let's just say you live somewhere on a Greek island or something. And I know this from a person I know. They always try to label this island more exotic, like, oh, instead of being here in this island that doesn't sound as exotic, I'm going to say I'm somewhere in Miami Beach or LA or New York or whatever. Like giving it all these Americanized names. Whereas the place does not need to be Americanized or hyped. It just needs to be seen as it is. And people who are more native to that place understand that very well. Also, you cannot move somewhere without being immersed in the culture. And places in general can be magical. They do not need to be hyped. I felt the same about Santorini, actually. Santorini is completely over touristed at this point, but if you go away from all the hustle and bustle, you can find a pretty interesting energy in that place in particular. Some say it's part of the original Atlantis. When I was there, it was incredibly hard to tap into any of that, and which is also why I for sure am going to go back at least once or twice. I know that because it's such a beautiful photographic island, and I just love to take pictures there and have a lot of footage from there. But it's very hard when like 6 a.m. was the only time. At one point, I got up at 6 a.m. because I literally did not want to have any tourists in my photos. And 6 a.m. was the only time where I could feel something on that island. At any other point, it's just completely, I mean, tourists everywhere, especially during the summer season or even off season. There is no off season. Maybe there is when you go from November through March where no one's really there. But even if you go in April or if you go September, I was there September, October, there's way too many people. And my other friend who was there 10 years ago, like literally 10 years ago in 2014, she was like, oh yeah, it was only crowded for a few hours during the day because of the cruise ships. Everything else was fine. And I'm like, no, that's not how it was at all. It was crowded for 14 hours straight, and then people were sleeping, and they even lost electricity because they're so crowded there. And their entire electric network is overloaded, which is happening a lot on a lot of Greek islands over the past few years already, because people are just overrunning all those places, right? Not just in Greece, also like Italy and everywhere else. So I felt the same. It doesn't have to be hyped. And certain places, you know, there's just an energy to certain places. Like we already talked about the energy of Hawaii and how it's sacred and how greed just took over that place and the land was really purging it, especially with the fires and everything that was going on there. Of course, it was an interaction between fires that were set and other things happening there, but the land has a say as well. And when the land feels it needs to cleanse itself and purify itself from something, especially when it's as sacred as Hawaii, which anyone who's ever been to Hawaii knows what I'm talking about. If you've never been to Hawaii, it's going to be hard for you to imagine. There's just something very special about it, and that's why it draws people there, and that's why I feel people are just drawn to places in general, right? The land is powerful. And I do feel when you go to, let's just say Hawaii, you go to those places because you need healing. And those places are able to provide you with what you need in that moment, but it's not necessarily meant to stay. So, for example, if you go to Sedona, Sedona was never meant for anyone to settle there. People could have maybe been there for a few weeks or a few months, but it was never meant for people to set up home there, to live there for 20, 30, 40, unless you really, really, really have a connection to that land and really honor it. And I personally already felt a huge connection to Sedona, but I for sure felt it was not my business to move there or to settle there, because that would just be way too much. You know, they have too much, well, at this point it's infiltrated, but back then they had too much vortex energy and everything going on. You can't be in that 24/7. And so that's how certain places can be too. Possibly Hawaii. Hawaii's a little bit different. When you're native to Hawaii, which I know at least one person following this channel is, you're going to have a different connection to that land anyhow than someone like me or someone entirely different who's from a different area in the world. So the native Hawaiians right now are having the hardest time anyhow with nailing down any type of housing or keeping the places sacred as is. And it's just getting worse over the past few years too. But you go there because you need a type of healing. And in Hawaii specifically, you can feel that. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's like an island in the middle of the Pacific. Like, why does it draw so many people there? There must be a reason. Other places around there, like Tahiti, does not draw as many people there. It's literally Hawaii. Psychedelics can open up portals, and the medicine needs to be kept sacred. That's why microdosing is not advisable. I don't care if you get upset about it. If you're addicted to microdosing, you have an issue anyhow. That's all I have to say to that. I've never been a fan of it, never understood people really who did it. And for me, it's, I mean, you're opening up stuff. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna let through all these entities. So if you want to learn more about psychedelics from someone who actually has done psychedelics and knows the pros, the cons, the everythings, who's not just talking out of their behinds and, you know, promoting it as the most dangerous shit out there like other people are who've never taken it. If you really just want to know the truth about it and my truth about it, there's a course on it. I'll link it in the description. Back to the land. Iran and Saudi Arabia do not respect their women. And I was just wondering, where is this coming from? So it's another thing about a lot of these Middle Eastern cultures and also African cultures not respecting their women in the same way others are. And yes, you could also argue that medieval Europe did not respect their women, and maybe somewhere in Australia, New Zealand, whatever, they didn't either. But I do think a lot of native tribes, if you really go again to the nativity of the land, which of course Europeans were native to their land too at one point. If you really go to the pure nativity, being native to that back in the days, there's a different energy, right? Like native tribes usually do respect women. Like there were medicine women, there were women who helped women give birth, just those type of things, you know, the modern day doulas and all of that. What they now have as doulas, not back in the days, it wasn't modern day, but it was just like a more of a pure approach. So for some reason, Iran and Saudi Arabia do not respect their women. Where is this coming from? It's not just today. It's also been going on for at least a few hundred years, if not longer. I suspect Afghanistan is also a country that does not respect their women, at least the ones that are connected to the Taliban. I don't know about the others. And I'm not sure about Iraq. Iraq has a little bit of a different history. But there are a few other Middle Eastern countries or just countries in that area. I don't know if it was Sudan or something else, maybe even Oman around Saudi Arabia, but for sure, Iran and Saudi Arabia are the two huge ones. If you go to Egypt, on the other hand, very different energy. You know, they have their gods, their goddesses, even all of that is infiltrated, of course. Like I also said in a different video, there's still a different form of respect. Let's put it that way. You know, but if you really go to those countries like Saudi Arabia and Iran, zero respect, especially with the covering up, insane, absolute insanity. That wasn't the case 100, 200 years ago. So where is this coming from? That's what I'm wondering. Maybe someone wants to comment on that. If not, I'm probably going to read on that in the future. Life is meant to be lived, another huge one that some people seem to be forgetting lately. We do a lot of sacrifices. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Okay, that was weird. That was so strange. My phone is on airplane mode and something just rang through it. Isn't that weird how AI works? Okay. Now I got distracted with things. Let me get back on point. Right, we wanted to do Pandora's box. Another one is the ice cream trucks in New York City are supposedly disappearing. If you have been following my channel, especially the old channel, from 2020 on, I had a whole bunch of YouTube lives on it where I was talking about every single time when I was talking about something Matrix related outside of my window. I was in Brooklyn, in a certain part of Brooklyn back then, and it was April, May. So I was right around the lockdown too. Every time I wanted to talk about this really important Matrix concept, an ice cream truck would roll around the corner. And it didn't even matter what time of day. I mean, obviously it wasn't late at night, but let's just say at 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m. No matter when, but every time I was mentioning something related to a Matrix concept, you would have an ice cream truck. So the ding, ding, ding. And what's also fascinating is after having been to so many other countries that I have been, like almost 50 at this point, no matter what country you're in, even in Europe or even in South America, I don't remember Asia that much, but the ice cream trucks all sound the same throughout the world. Or similar at least. They have a similar ding, ding, ding. And these ice cream trucks, these Mr. Softy franchise owners, they think they're going to go out of business soon. So how fascinating. For me, this is always a symbol that they're changing something major within the Matrix again. They're switching over another major something to AI. If these things that have been around for a long time are going out of business, there's another AI takeover that they're planning on doing, that the Matrix controllers are planning on doing somehow. We wanted to talk about Pandora's box. Okay, I've been wanting to talk about this for the past few hours already, or the past few videos. Pandora's box. So when people talk about, oh, psychedelics are bad because they open up portals, blah, blah, blah. Opening up a portal is not always a bad thing. Okay, and this is also why I feel a lot of people don't know what they're talking about at all. When you want to exit here somehow, you will have to open up something. You will have to open up a portal. I think we can all agree on that. You have to do something. So opening up a portal is not always a bad thing. It's not like Pandora's box where only the bad comes out, which we'll see exactly what came out. But even then, I'm not sure it was just the bad that came out of Pandora's box. Pandora's box seems to be just another glitch and another symbol for having left paradise behind. So we had this entire apple and maggot and Adam and Eve symbology in one of the music videos from the 80s and 90s. And then Pandora's box is just this another thing, you know. Now let's just go through exactly what Pandora's box is, because I personally found that interesting. Pandora's box is basically an artifact in Greek mythology connected with the myth of Pandora, which is around 700 BC. And it was written by Hesiod. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It related to a curiosity that led Pandora to open a container left in the care of her husband, and therefore releasing curses upon mankind. I think it was 7 different ones. And the depictions of this story varied, but the literal translations is actually not a box, but it's a storage jar, as you'll see in this picture. And the word was later translated. So it's not even opening up Pandora's box, but it's opening up Pandora's jar. I don't want to say Pandora's storage jar because that sounds silly, but it's opening up a jar, you know, like a can of worms. And the 7 things that were opened up by Pandora, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8. Sorrow, disease, vice, violence, greed, madness, old age, and death. Interesting. Don't ever open it. And then this also had to do with Zeus. As Zeus anticipated, Pandora's curiosity got the best of her. She opened the box or the jar, ending earthly paradise from the small jar flew the troubles and woes to plague humankind forever. So I actually feel this is one of the most recent resets we had. They say it was written around 700 BC. And as I already went through my Greek mythology video, a lot of what they say came around, like the timelines are just all over the place. But if this was written around 700, like this is like more than 2,000, almost 3,000 years ago at this point. Yeah, like 2,700 supposedly, if the calendars are all right, which we know the calendars are not right. I think we can all agree on that at this point. And so sorrow, disease, violence, greed, madness, old age, death, vice flew out. Well, they're also saying, you know, if you go to a bunch of these old scriptures, including the biblical ones, which some of those, you know, they were just written from the experience that people had from back in the day. They've seen people turned 200, 300 years old or even older. And that somehow we had this reset where now we can only be a certain amount of years, like maybe 70, maybe 100, maybe whoever. Like people most likely are still turning 200 years old. You just never hear about it because the media doesn't report on it. Whenever someone turns 100 something years old, it's a huge thing already. But I'm pretty sure somewhere in a mountain area or mountain culture or region, you for sure have 200-year-old people. And just the fact that one of the president's grandsons from the 1700s, yeah, it's still alive. Like they're just messing with us, honestly. Like they're messing for sure. The entire Cabal clan is able to turn a few hundred years old. So why wouldn't we be able to? And I know some people don't want to, and that's great. But for others who actually want to discover why, I find this interesting. Now you have madness, death, old age. So people might maybe not have even died before this. Sorrow, diseases. Well, diseases and death, I guess it goes hand in hand. Violence, greed. I feel like you always had greed to a certain degree, though. But what is interesting about the entire Pandora's box mythology, other than, you know, the gods being involved, like Zeus being involved, and it having different symbols in different cultures, like in Russia, they actually have a fountain in regards to this, and then they have political cartoons. Everything about it is like Pandora's box has always been fascinating for generations to come. So it seems like this was another major timeline reset somehow, and it could have been a form of paradise that went to the end. Maybe it's even the most recent paradise that came to an end where Adam and Eve were around too. Maybe not. Maybe it's a completely different timeline. And like, just remember, even if you just switch your playlist or you switch one song in your playlist, you're already on a completely different timeline and you're getting different messages in your life, which I find interesting. So it could be similar to this. You know, we had like major timeline jumps, major timeline switches, and Pandora's box is another symbol for that, which I feel very strongly. Once we wake up to all these symbols, you know, we just put them together like puzzle pieces and then it makes more sense. So this is just another form of a puzzle piece. For a few more things. Let me just see real quick. Okay, so this is still all over the place. So that was Pandora's box. We have to bring the soul back through community as well. So this entire party culture, which you've had party culture for ages, I understand that, but when did it really come about? Like when did this disco club culture come about? I don't know, 40, 50 years ago. I feel that was really disruptive to community and just, you know, it was more like a soul-based getting together, because the entire partying and clubbing culture really ruins a lot. It ruins a lot of community. It puts people on drugs. It puts like just, you know, all these party drugs, everything else without intention. If you're taking drugs, or I mean, those type of drugs are not good anyhow because they're all synthetic, they're all man-made. But if you're taking this type of drugs, zero intention behind it, you're just blowing your brains out. You're messing with your soul. You're kind of selling pieces of your parts to the soul. Material things can keep us inside of a matrix. They actually do keep us inside of a matrix. So it's always good to not be attached to those, which some people seem to forget as well. It also seemed that wherever we are now, so let's just say we are on the earth realm, it seems like this is the last refugee that we can be at. And so all these creatures and souls are just smashed together with their own trauma, etc. So it's not just us as humans that are here, it's also animals. It's other creatures that are here, you know. I don't want to say insects, but like you have animal, what else do you have? You have so much here. You have the energy of the lands, the energy of the water, the energy of the elements, you have animal souls, you have human souls. So we're all just here smashed together with their own issues, their own trauma, their own groups that they belong to, because animals belong to this other group, like this huge animal group. They're way more instinctual too. So they will react to situations in a very different way than any human will. And it does seem that wherever we are, it's the last refugee because there's nowhere else to go, which is also interesting because people keep talking about, oh, I can't wait to be out of here and yada yada. And my question is always, which I'm going to discuss in a different video, where do you think you're going to go? Because, you know, even if you make it through all these layers and all these things that are going, it seems there's almost nowhere really else to go, or at least there needs to be more of a meaning behind where you're going than just blindly going somewhere else and being kept somewhere else. That's not going to really serve you. You're kind of being trapped in this different reality, let's put it that way. But you know, a lot of people just like to say things without knowing much about it and misleading people in that sense. For me, at least, I'm sharing whatever insight I'm getting on it, and I do feel, you know, we're all kind of on a path to discover the truth. But I'm not going to be, oh, like, yeah, I'm the only one who has the truth and blah blah blah, just like other people are. I find that very dangerous, and I also find the way that other people are worshiping these people almost more dangerous, because it shows no matter what you are, no matter if you are in the new age, if you are in the truther community, the so-called truther, I call it the misleading truther community or the mistruth community at this point, no matter which community you're a part of, even like political fans, you know, politics is really big right now. No matter which you're a part of, if you are still hanging on the lips of someone because you're not getting your own insight, or you think you can't get your own insight, or rather you don't want to get your own insight, you just want to have it as easy as possible, you're still disempowering yourself. I mean, there's no other way to do that. So like, how do you even think you're going to make it through is my question. Like, you need to start taking your power back. And I feel that my message has been pretty consistent with every single video that I've had on this channel. You know, it's literally like, you need to be in your own power. You need to learn these things on your own, because people are going to disappoint you. No one's going to have all the answers, and you need to find your own answers, your own truth. So these are just random things that I have that I'm sharing with you, because why not? You know, I'm not going to keep them to myself. So I think they're going to help people. And I know other people have different insights on this. They're going to share their own. If they don't want to share it, it's cool too. But they're going to at least use whatever you're learning and put different puzzle pieces together. And then you can have a bigger picture than just random puzzle pieces splattered all over. I think that's all that I wanted to have. Just keep looking at my notes. So once again, I hope this helps someone. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or whatever. Thank you so much. If you're new to this channel, definitely subscribe. There are going to be more videos coming up. And I hope you have a wonderful one. Enjoy your day. Until then, bye guys.